Overall, I think the purpose of Inscape is sort of to just give the students that first look into the publishing and the editing world, to give them an idea before stepping out into or out of the university, to just give them that initial kind of groundwork on how everything works when you're dealing with a magazine. Inscape is my child now. I mean, once you work on it for so many years and you see the drive that everybody puts behind it and the collaboration between the faculty advisors and the students and the collaboration between the English side and the art side, you just get to see sort of how it does get from the nitty-gritty and working on it word by word and page by page to the final product.
Currently, I am a faculty advisor for the journal. Essentially, that just entails coming to the meetings, overseeing the student discussion of the submissions, and just kind of being there in a very supportive role. In terms of the actual discussion, our participation is fairly minimal, and we're really just asked to, I suppose, weigh in if it's a particularly difficult decision that the editorial staff is coming to. We trust one another as an editorial staff collectively. I think that all the pieces are given due diligence, very smart readings, interpretations, and we've got a lot of faith in our editorial staff and their what they're bringing to the pieces in terms of just instinct and the thought behind their discussions. I think it definitely builds upon their ability to just respond to the written word. And I think that's a great gift that Inscape provides them, is just to engage in that larger kind of literary discussion that we talk so much about, even in the creative writing classes, and it's so kind of important to what I think writing is and reading is. And I think it's just, it's a good, low-risk way of entering into that discussion that I think is so important and really at the heart of what it is that we do.
This piece is called Jessica. Jessica is a city. There are coffee shops and southern restaurants, department stores and clothing stores. There is a factory rich with graffiti. Outside the city, there are farms with barns and incandescent light bulbs, and the farmers bring the food they grow at the farms to the farmers market in the city every Saturday. The parking garages are safe and the airport quiet. It's a nice airport, but most people prefer to drive when they come and go. There's a florist where boys can buy girls flowers. There's a park where couples can walk together, and a church where they can worship with one another. Behind the church is a graveyard where people dig their own graves. Space is running out. At sunset, the couples buy ice cream, sit on their balconies, and watch the streets clear out. The men and women in the streets have ice cream too, but their ice cream melts faster than the couples. They try the doors to the apartments where the couples live, but they're all locked, save for one. Most of them go to the hotels, where they can stay the night, but not the week.
It's a literary journal that has survived over half a century, and that's very rare in America. So we're very proud of that, and we're very proud of the commitment that Morehead State has always made to preserving Inscape and to funding it, even through the worst of financial times. Our Dean McBride, and our Chair, Dr. Williams, and the folks over in the art department as well have been really devoted to keeping the journal viable. And I've been involved with it for most of my 27 years here, and it's been a great experience. I think I can say this, and even though it's kind of a generalization, students in this region and students at this university kind of get the whole creative ethos, the whole need for creativity. I don't know if it's distinctly Appalachian or not, but I do know that the folks who wind up on Inscape already know that the creative act is central and crucial to learning and to being a full human being. And I think that manifests itself in Inscape and in the kind of stability that it's had. The minute one puts a word on a page or a screen or a wall or a desktop, one is vulnerable. So providing a vehicle and a place for that sort of risk-taking, that sort of positive, healthy risk-taking is really crucial. That's what Inscape does first and foremost. I think we get to see writers experience publication for the first time. We get to see editorial people speak out loud about work for the first time. And that's very exciting to be around and to see it happen.
This next one is called Words of the Wise. Words of the wise don't rest on my mind and facilitate inspiration or guide my technique. They chatter and click across each synapse like seizing wooden dentures. As lectures persist, I hear forefathers laughing at the great men and women we're not sure we can become. They are not the runway across which we glide, guiding us towards the sun. They are the rotten teeth that chew and gnash and gum the sinews of our apparently sinful brains. Our tombstones will never stand proudly beside theirs, not because we are not worthy, but because we'd rather die nameless and silent than to ever repeat what they've said and done, no matter how badly they think we ought to.
For as long as I've been involved in it, it's been a literary and arts and visual arts journal. And I think that the journal is sustained by the kind of insight and power and wisdom that you get from the visual arts. We've always had the best people from the art department involved in it, Gary and Lisa Mesagaido, for many years. So the journal kind of thrives under their influence, always has.
My role is to try to get things started at the beginning of every year to make sure that we as in all of the departments and the faculty advisors meet with Coma, creative director at the University Marketing, to make sure that we can set up a timeline, deadlines for students to submit work. We have 3 competitions, 2 sets of deadlines, one for the art and design, which comes a little sooner, and then a little later is the English side, the writing. I play a role in putting together the information for posters, press releases, emails sent out to students, social media of all of the call for entries, trying to get the word out, letting people know there's money involved, securing money to also encourage the students to enter. A lot of art students are kind of hesitant. They're fearful that their work won't be accepted, or, we try to tell them that art is subjective and they should attempt and see what happens. They definitely won't get in unless they attempt.
I've always heard about Inscape, but I never really just thought about ever putting art pieces in. I was just like, I'm not that good, so I really don't need to be in it at all. And Lisa Mesagado, she kept on finding me every day, and she was just like, Sarah, you need to put something in here. It's always good to try. You just need to. So I was just like, okay, why not try something? So it was my first time in intaglio printmaking, and like Maria, I did an aqua tint. I tried something different. Mr. Franzini, he just kept on saying, like, Sarah, I want you to dig deep, because in the future, I want to be a medical illustrator. So he said, do something with the human body. So I did, and the piece I got in was a piece that was just like ribs, and it was bent, and it was broken, and it basically came from like a touch to the inner side of me where I had lost my mom, and I was like fixing in time, which is the name of the piece. So it was just like me slowly healing up, and I have words, like I wrote out the words and I had to write them backwards inside the copper plate, and then when you printed it, it turned out the right way. I didn't even think I could get in. And then I got the email that I got in, and when I saw it, I was just like, oh my goodness, my artwork is published. I was just like, I didn't even want to do this. I just got pressured into doing it, and I'm glad I did it, because it was a blessing. I got a book. I got 2 books from Gary, and then I went to my church because I wanted them to see it, and then I was like showed it around the family, and they were proud of me, and I was just proud of myself. If they are feeling any type of discouragement about anything, just go ahead and try it. It's not going to hurt you. And if you don't get in, that's okay. You could try again. If you don't have more time to try again, then it's okay, because you are finding yourself. So you are able to grow in many different ways. You don't have to make it into that. That doesn't mean that your artwork isn't good. It just means that you're growing. You have more to do with life. So I do it anyways. I've been entering more art shows, and I've actually been putting myself out there more. It helped me grow a lot more because I'm at work. I work now at a winery, and they asked me to do some logos for them. So I'm willingly just to like put my artwork out there, and then I'm showing everybody, and I just feel proud for myself. Like I'm growing tremendously, and it just inspires me so much to do more.
Being in Inscape, the first time it happened, I honestly didn't expect it. As an undergraduate, you kind of get in the habit of applying for these things that are competitive, and you know that you might not get in, and you kind of accept that failure and move on to the next one. But my junior year, I was finally admitted, and I got an honorable mention, and it was a nice confidence boost. And it was a semester before I started my student teaching here in Brown County, so that confidence boost kind of translated once I was in the classroom. Now that I was kind of in a published work. It's something I really needed, and it encouraged me to keep applying in the future, and I was able to get in 2 more times throughout my career, and that's still ongoing. I plan on submitting this year as well, but 3 entries total accepted so far. The first piece that was accepted was an intaglio piece from a printmaking class that I did with Bob Franzini over at the Department of Art and Design, and it was actually the first time I had used this specific technique called aquatint. So I was kind of nervous because it was kind of my guinea pig example of this new process I was learning, and to my surprise, it was accepted into the publication, and I was just really shocked because I would never think that my first attempt at a new process would be recognized in a publication like that. So this was the second piece that I had get into the publication, and again, this was the first teapot I had ever made. And the assignment was to do kind of like a throne and altar. So I threw the dome piece on the wheel and this plate on the wheel, but I did all of this hand building here. And this was actually the piece that inspired all of my graduate work. So this kind of took off. This was the first time I'd used this metallic surface with my organic surfaces here. And that kind of, I like to challenge the viewer with the industrial textures with textures that we find in nature, because I think that we coexist with nature, that we try to separate ourselves from nature as much as possible. So I think it's interesting to make a functional thing that kind of replicates that relationship that we have with nature, where we have both this man-made texture, kind of harsh metallic, with these organic, earthy tones.
Usually they have contests every year for Inscape, and students are allowed to participate. They either enter in entries for some of the art that they've done or some of the writing, but they've also got an entry for cover design, and so I entered into both cover design and entering into the publication itself, but the cover design won, and I'm actually really happy about that because it's juried and there's a lot of students who enter.
What did it do for you?
Well, first off, I'm going to mention that where it was juried and it was a competition, it was one of my first instances where I was up against people with art. So I had to, when I was in the creative process of designing the cover for it, I had to think about who the audience was and break it down. And it wasn't simply just creating art for art's sake, it was the practical application of how do I get people to this publication. I would probably say that when I'm going and creating art, there's a dangerous aspect of thinking too much selfishly or too much about your audience. There's a good give and take about it, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, that comes through when you're just making it for somebody. Or if you just don't care about what somebody else thinks about your work, then why would anybody care that you're making it in the first place? So it's being considerate and having a goal, and then knowing how your goal is going to affect your audience, and that's the real challenge that artists face. A lot of times I feel like when I was beginning with my art career, I was trying to make things and then I was having issues with people not really caring about it. I mean, I'm technically talented, but that doesn't mean anything, you know. So that Inscape, I would have to say, was a good first stand when I actually understood that and was able to use it well.
My name is David Moore, and I'm a graphic designer with the Communications and Marketing Department at Morgan State University. When I was a student, undergrad, I submitted work to Inscape a couple times. The first time, actually, I didn't make it into the magazine. I wanted to be a part of it because I felt like that was recognition, confidence building, and sort of validation for the work that I was doing. I think a lot of students feel that way. That's why they submit work. So the first time I didn't get in it, then I think it was the next year I submitted work again, and it was chosen for the cover and I think first place for the inside. The concept for that particular piece was about storytelling, and I think that's the title. What I ended up titling it was storytelling. And basically you have this figure who's kind of a female figure, and she's basically telling a story to a rabbit. So I thought about storybooks, I thought about when I was a kid, so I give it kind of a weathered effect like the old storybooks, like the golden storybooks, but I want it to be kind of surreal at the same time and abstracted. I actually like a lot of the other work that's in there. I knew a lot of the people, so it kind of builds your confidence up. It makes you feel good about what you're doing. You're knowing that your work is on the same level as your peers, and it's kind of recognized on that level.
In 2017 will be like you said, our 60th. We have 2 undergraduate fellows currently scanning, working with the library, the archive collection, and they are scanning high quality 600 DPI, all the issues that we have available to us, and those are going to be uploaded to a university database system, so internationally anyone can access these. And they will also be added to the Inscape site in 2017, but it's a pretty long process because the quality of the scans are so high. I think it's going to be a pretty exciting year. And I think it's good for MSU because I think in some years, and in some ways, Inscape has kind of been under the radar for some people. And to see that this has been a collaborative effort from many departments, and the departments have kind of shifted. At some point, music was involved as well, some of those earlier issues. Art wasn't, and they came back in. So to kind of see how the university population has come together, right, to make this happen, and it's always, from what it appears to be, has been student-centered. So it's really about students getting their work published or playing a role in the creation of this journal.